thank you again, folks. Thank you again for that introduction. This is me 50 pounds ago and about 1.5 years ago in Yellowstone National Park. And I decided to show this because it has a great story, and I'm going to tell it very quick because it's important. When I walked out into this situation, when I went into Yellowstone to photograph these great gray owls, kids came out of the woods all disappointed that they didn't see the owls. And I decided to stay and look for it. And within a couple of minutes, I found them very quickly. And I was able to wolf whistle to the kids that were walking to the parking lot. And it was hundreds of yards away, but I could see them. And it was that kind of situation. And this wolf whistle definitely got the kids' attention, and they were able to come back to enjoy this. However, when I wolf whistled, I got the attention of the owl incredibly. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. Owl put its eyes on me and would not stop staring at me. And then all of a sudden it flew on my head and it freaked me out. But and because I moved and got nervous, it jumped off and landed on my lens. And because I had shared this moment with these kids, they were able to get a photograph of me with this amazing owl on my lens. So sharing is caring, folks. That's why I show it. Let me show you a couple pictures to get your blood flowing today, okay? Let's move on. All right. I try to make pictures that tell stories. Let's just mute a couple of people and it'll work fine. I try to make pictures that tell stories. And as I've taken pictures throughout the years, I've grown myself. Things change as you go through life, and your decision-making changes. And of course, techniques change and technology changes. And so you have to change along with it. And with that, I try to make people laugh, try to make pictures that tell stories like this, when you see the flies in the sky and they make you itch, and just a continuity that you can read in a picture, okay? Photographs that you can actually look into and read and see what's going on. Same with this image right here, kind of that Lego my ego, that's my food. And you can see the anger in one bear's face with the other bear that's coming in trying to steal. And that was the idea, to try to get some kind of humanistic factor out of the animals. Even with this, with the little baby on the bottom there, and the point of the baby being super sharp, and with the story of the nursing going on in the background with the other baby and the mom, it's kind of interesting how both are going on at the same time. And I love that, how the baby is looking at me and nervous, and he kept popping his head in and out while the others are comfortable with what's going on, and there's a great thing happening in the background. Even this one I took in Florida many years ago. I was teaching a class at the Bird Festival up in St. Augustine. And I had my camera trained on this moment. The lighting was beautiful. And all of a sudden, the egret put its wing out, and the shadow of the background chick came out almost like a screen, like a puppet show. And there it was, this great storyline of, this is how I take care of my kids. I keep them occupied with puppet shows so I can preen and not even watch them. Sure. And that's how I read my pictures. It's a lot of fun. And capturing these moments are important. You really have to pay attention to what's going on in front of you to be able to click the shutter on time. And actually, sometimes I have to think about these moments in advance to capture them. Anyway, we'll keep going. Take a look at this little list. Now, I've changed this list. Yesterday, this list was a little different. And like I said, I like to grow as I go too, but really it's all the same and good. We're going to be talking about this stuff. And if you want to screenshot it or take a picture of this real quick, I'll leave it up for another minute while we go over it. All these things are going through my head when I go out into the wild or into the wilderness to take pictures. And they're constantly going through my head, because as I go out and see these new scenes as they come to me, I have to make decisions really quickly and decisively on how I'm going to handle it, what the lighting is, the backgrounds. And these are very important to me onto making these perfect pictures that I'm about to show you. At least I feel they're perfect. All right, so balance is really important. I'm going to show that right away. Color harmony is a necessity in all art. Natural framing and environment really tells stories. You're going to see that. Depth, shadows, and contrast all play on photography are important. So patterns of light, patterns and textures alone in your backdrops and in your images are important. Your design factor, your composition on how you make images are super important. The mood, to capture moods, and the impact of my images, all super important today, okay? Let's get into it. Let's get into it right now. All right. This has been a very popular image of mine, and it's been around a long time. I took it with a 1600 millimeter equivalent lens. That was when Sigma, I was working for Sigma, and they had me testing their 800 millimeter lens. It was a 300 to to 800 millimeter zoom. It was a monster lens. It was super heavy. I had to use a long lens support to keep it super steady. And I would put it on tripod and then connect, the long lens support would connect the middle with the lens shade and the camera. So it would be super, super steady. That's because when you're shooting at 1600 millimeter, you're not just magnifying the subject, you're magnifying the camera shade, and you have to take it super seriously. Now I'm shooting over a lake into a wooded area that's super far away, hundreds of yards. Okay, and to get it this sharp is really an accomplishment. But what's better is the camouflage of the image, and really that yellow eye just holds you. And then you have to look at it and say, what am I looking at? And then you see the shape of the owl and how amazing that owl's camouflage is. I've sold this picture to Greenpeace, and it's been around the world a few times with some other purchases, and I'm very fond of it. Let's go on. Moreover, what I wanted to talk about with this is the balance of why I center this image. Now, I don't often center images, and you're going to see a bunch of centered images right now. I try to teach, when I teach photography, I try to teach not to center images, to use your frame to your advantage so that your eyes roam around the image, and to make the images more interesting and to hold your viewers longer. Okay, your audience, you want to hold them as long as possible. You want to captivate them. Remember, it's just a single image, it's not a video. All right, so moving on, here's another pretty impactful image that I took in Africa. Again, it's a serious crop, and often I would not sell an image without some kind of eye in it, because an eye is a really good focal point. But in this case, it was all about the tusk. In fact, the image is called Ivory. And it's a really impactful image because it's the largest tusk on a living creature in the world, okay? That's important, all right? And it's guarded 24 hours a day by Maasai warriors that are armed and ready to take on any kind of poachers that dare to threaten it. So pretty awesome image. It's in my gallery right now in Lake Worth. And I have it 5 feet tall, so it's really impactful and got a lot of texture. And really the texture is what it's all about, the texture in the trunk and then the smoothness of the tusk. That's a real nice contrast there. Moving on, here's another centered image, but it's really impactful. And this was taken in the Great Bear Rainforest up in British Columbia, Canada. It's a spirit bear, it's a white black bear. And I'm standing in the river with this bear, and I had to get permission from the Inuit people up there to stand in the river because they're spawning salmon and they don't want the eggs ruined, and it's a very, very delicate area. So I was standing on rocks, and it was a drought that season, and I was able to stand right where the bear was hunting, and it picked up its head, and I got this amazing close-up with this pink salmon just pulled out of the river. It was a fantastic moment. And really what I love about the eye contact here is that it really puts you where I was in the field there. I mean, there's a lot of impact when the animals are looking at you like this, because that's what they were doing with me, and I'm looking through a 400 millimeter lens here, so it's really exciting when you're looking through it and it's magnified in my lens, and hopefully you get some of that excitement from the detail in the image. Okay, same thing with this. The eye contact is super important. It's very engaging in an image. Okay, now again, I centered this image because there was a lot of equal parts around the lion that were balanced. It brought balance to the image. And what I try to do is I stack these elements in my images to make them as impactful as possible. So in here, I have this lion who's staring through me, literally. And I'm in, again, a 400 millimeter lens, and he seems so close that I have to take my eyes off the eyepiece just to make sure he's not walking in the car with me. It's that frightening. But he was using the car as a blind to get to another animal on the other side. It's almost like he has X-ray vision. It's incredible, but very impactful when they're looking at you like this. Just like this wolf. This is in Yellowstone National Park. I spent 13 years photographing wolves in the park there, ending with some incredible encounters that I can't show all of them to you, but you'll see a couple here, okay? Wolves are really hard to find in Yellowstone. They're very difficult because they're afraid of people, and they really stay off the beaten path, and usually you're gonna see them at 500, 600 yards away. So it's really exciting to get them this close. Again, I'm still using a 1200 millimeter lens. There are distance parameters that you have to go by. You can't get too close because it's against the law and it's dangerous for you and the animal. Okay, so let's get off centering images now, okay? When I photographed this in Samburu, Kenya, there were a lot of images to take, but this was a great moment when it sat up because of the twist of the animal mimics the tree a little bit. And then, of course, composition is paramount, okay? Putting the leopard on the side is important. It needed to be in the clear background, okay? It couldn't be into the branches of the tree. That would be distracting, okay? So it had to stand alone. And again, I needed some kind of artistic juxtaposition to make the image flow. I'm all about flow, all right? The least distractions possible, a great flow, sharp eyes so that you have a place to really look at and get the sharpness and get its attraction. It's really about attraction, okay? And that's why I keep it on the eyes, okay? The eyes are the doorway to the soul. Let's do another. Okay, so I love this image for a lot of reasons, but life is a stage. The world is a stage. And when I was young, I used to play video games, and they would put these fighters in the greatest world that you could imagine in the background. They'd be fighting, and a volcano would be going off in the background, or it would just be epic, an epic scene. And that's what I felt with this. That's Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. It was a dormant volcano with a glacier at the top. It's on the equator, and it's still got snow there. It's just an incredible scene. It's the tallest mountain in Africa too. And so you have these two giant bulls going in for a fight. And I used to teach, because I took many shots of this leading up to them touching trunk to trunk. And I used to teach, what's the perfect shot? And I would get them leading up to each other. And I would show trunk up, trunk down. I would show the juxtapositions are right. Now I have 4 feet per animal. I have the yin and yang of the trunks. I have them touching, so there's a connection, and I have an amazing background. All right, so there's a lot of elements in the image for me to make it. Okay. We're going to move on from this one. Again, romancing nature. Sometimes there's romance in my image, but not often. And actually, these zebra are actually just using each other's shoulders to rest their heads on. And this is common scene in Africa because they watch each other's backs, believe it or not. And that's how nobody sneaks up on them. Okay, so they're not only resting, but they're looking out for each other, which is really, really beautiful. I love the atmosphere. There's a lot of dust in the air in that area of Amboseli, Kenya. And so the light kind of hazes through the area all the time, and it makes for a nice romantic scene, nice warm scene. This is an iconic image in Kilimanjaro. To get one of these big tuskers, one of these iconic elephants in front of the mountain is everybody's goal. This is Ulysses. The biggest elephants have names, and they're all, like I said, they're well cared for and looked after. And they're certainly icons, like I said, of the area. And to me, this one screams just an image that lasts forever. And there won't be snow on the top of that mountain forever. So it definitely means something. It gives it a time, and there's some value to that as well. Moving on, and I'm moving quick because I always feel that we're time constrained plus our little fiasco in the beginning, but we're doing well. So I'm going to try to cool down here and slow down. I like to talk about silhouettes. Silhouettes are a lot of part of my work. Sometimes you can feel a silhouette. And so when I shoot them at sunset like this, I think they have the best chances. In Africa, the sunsets happen very quickly because you're on the equator and the sun just goes straight down. And so you have to set up your scene before it happens. And sometimes there's nothing for miles, and it's hard to find these scenes. It's really difficult. And so when you run out of things to do, you set up on what was an acacia tree in this moment. And for me, it was just luck that a lion got up from lying down and walked in front of the sun, and it was really a fantastic moment. You can hear the crickets, all right? And I'm hoping that the image evokes that feeling. It's about evoking a feeling here more than anything. We know that there's a predator lurking. We know that the sun is going down and it's going to be a dangerous night. And there's a story there. And I love the story. Shooting at dawn and dusk is going to be some of the most important ways to get your romantic images, okay? A lot of times I won't be out during the day. Now, there are times where I'm out on safari or away on vacations and I don't quit all day. I'm looking to make images all day. I'm trying to maximize my time because I don't always get the chances and opportunities to be in these places. So I'm working super hard to find the best images. But the truth is sunrise and sunset is when all the magic happens. The warm skies, you can shoot into the sun and not get blinded. So it's part of the image, which I love. And then capturing the shadow details because everything is now subdued and very unique at this hour. Photographing is much harder. You have to take your time. You have to worry about camera shake. That's why I like the Olympus equipment that I work with now, because the stabilizers called a 7/8 stop stabilizer. It gives you this opportunity in shooting late light, which I love very much. Okay, let's show some more. So again, low light in Africa, it happens quick, like I said, and I'm looking for these pink skies. And so there is a way to photograph this. I tend to overexpose my skies by about 2/3 of the stop and then bring it back in post, because Lightroom's able to bring back my sky in post. I don't want to blow it out, folks. And I use my histogram very carefully to make sure I don't blow it out. Okay, and you can do that with the histogram is a graphical representation of what you're seeing. And so I don't blow out the sky and I get all these shadow details and it works. Okay, and that's just expanding the ability of my camera's chip. All right, exposing perfectly on your histogram is going to give you that opportunity to get the highlights detail and the shadows details in your images, which is very important. Okay, now again, shooting in that light, sometimes when it's so low, it's dark. I mean, this is a hazy day. That's the sun, it's not the moon, and so it's not bright at all. All right, and each instance has got its own feel. Okay, and the moods are important, and that's why I'm out there at these times, and they're impactful. All right, they're impactful moments. This is why I shoot this stuff. Now, this is back in my hometown in New York. Every winter, we would get these snowy owls on the beach that would come down from the Arctic, and they would roost on the beach. It would be much easier for them to hunt. It would be light during the day. In the Arctic, it's night all the time, and so they have an easier life. And so I would spend a lot of time with these owls because of the incredible images I would get with sunset and the backgrounds. And Jones Beach, the big beach of Long Island, has virtually no trees. And the moonrises are always fantastic. And so I'm looking for, which happens about once a month, the sun rises and the moon rises and the sun sets at the same time. And I can get the sunlight on my subjects with the moon coming up in the background. And this day was the day. Probably took 4 years to get this shot. Okay, but that's what we're talking about. This is way after sunset, and I'm still able to get the shot because I'm pushing my ISOs pretty high up. Because of our new cameras, we can do that. Okay, so I'm upwards at 6400 ISO, which is pushing the boundaries of your camera's limits. Okay, you can shoot higher, but you're going to get grain and you can get a bad quality picture. Now, there are programs that I do use sometimes after to get rid of the grain, but the trick is to try to get it right in camera. Okay, and so you want to get these pro lenses that are f4 and 2.8 so you can shoot as fast as possible with these high ISOs. Now the trick is if you shoot it properly and you get your histogram right, the noise kind of disappears. All right, and that's the trick. And then the images come out great. And you can see some detail in the shadows of my owl here. It's a great gray owl taking off to make a kill. And to be able to stop this motion and get the shadow detail is absolutely a feat. Okay, it's not easy. All right, and it takes technique and a lot of effort in being still, tripod, steady cam. You know, everything is involved with this. Okay, to get this perfect. But the result is a really moody shot. Okay, same thing here. So it's after sunset, and there's this great glow coming out of the sky. And this elephant is eating in front of me, and it's eating sloppy, so some of that is falling out of its mouth, and the silhouette becomes a lot of fun. And the trick is to get as low as possible. That's why I invented my new product that we were talking about in the introduction. I invented a product that allows you to get low shots from inside the safari vehicle, and even here, if you know the areas outside Loxahatchee like Green Cay and Loxahatchee, you have a railing. You'll be able to get low shots over the railing with my new product, and I'll be introducing that soon. So stay tuned to my Instagrams and follow my social media because that's an exciting thing coming up. All right. So yeah, the mood of the time is everything. Okay, and I needed fast shutter speed. I'm really exposed for the light in the background, and then the silhouette is all about. I like to get all the extremities. Okay, 4 legs on a creature, then get 4 legs. If you're photographing a person, 2 arms, 2 legs. Okay, all right. Otherwise, when I read photographs and I see 2 legs together, it looks like 1 leg. I'm like, oh, did you photograph a 3-legged animal? That's unique. And people will laugh at that, but I'm reading the image. I'm really taking it seriously because everything for me has to go checked out. Okay. Every rock gets turned over when I'm photographing out there. All right. Here's another centered image. And again, this image is really great because there's no horizon line. The fog in the background, it's just lifting because the sun is now out hitting the flamingos. and it has burned the fog in the foreground, but the background fog is still there, and it's going to dissipate fast. So I have to work fast, and I'm thinking like that. When I come to the scene, I'm like, I need to find a certain bunch of birds that are excluded from everything else, single them out so that, and then I usually go for trios, a one, sometimes a duo. It depends, but I do look for certain groupings, and that to me plays on the senses best. Okay, and this became a painting kind of photograph, and I really enjoyed making it. And again, the balance above and below and to the sides, I think really works on centering an image like this. Okay, so yeah, time of day. We were talking about the time of day, and then getting out early, setting up early so that the animals will come to you. The idea behind that is if you're in the wilderness before the animals get out, you become part of the wilderness. It sounds silly, but at the same time, it doesn't. The animals are out there every day and they're weary, all right? It's hunt or be hunted. So they're weary. And if you're out there, you're new, and they're going to be avoiding you if they can smell you. If you're leaving tracks, they can smell that. So you have to really take your time. You have to hunker down, and you have to be out before the animals. That way you become part of the wild, and they kind of ignore you. All right. And you become part of their world, and I can get closer to the animals. It's hard to articulate, but it's true. So I'll be out at dark and wait for the sunrise to come to me. Okay. And then the animals will go on their daily routine. All right. But if they're out on their daily routine and I show up, I scare them away. Okay. And they skip it because they think there's danger. All right. Something like that is really where I'm going. But pretty colors, morning light, some blues on the ices, and some warm tones coming in off the sunrise in the background. So I really like that tonality shift from high to low there. Okay. Again, 4 extremities, 4 legs, and I try to wait for that front leg to be lifted. This is all cognitive stuff that I'm doing when I'm out photographing. It's important, and you'll see a trend of it. Yeah, so after sunset, these snowy owls, they wake up. Okay, all day they sleep, and there's no point to even going out there unless you're looking for one, and then you know where it is, and then you can come back. But you're really photographing a sleeping owl. You might even be harassing it. So I stay out of that. And I don't want to mess with the birds, and I don't want them to fly away. I want them to stay longer. Okay, so that's how I handle it. Now, when I approach this, you see this bird is not flying away. I'm fairly close. I don't approach directly. I do a zigzag. I never look directly at the bird. I know where the bird is, and I walk sideways sometimes so the bird doesn't think I'm going right at it. So it doesn't think I'm predatorizing it, whatever that word is. But you understand that I'm chasing it. All right. If the bird is comfortable with me and thinks I'm part of the wilderness, that I'm out like a deer foraging for food, it's going to ignore me and do what it does. And then I can get great photographs. I'm lying on my belly. I want to be as low as possible. I want to get as much of the sky as possible, which is, again, sunset. I picked these days on purpose where there's this alpine glow. The sky is filled with sun clouds. And I know everybody knows about that here. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. That's all right. We'll go right back to it and move forward. So again, we're up in the Arctic, and I have these polar bears. This is called polar bear dance, and they're wrestling, and they're so far out. And there was a lesson to be learned here, and I'm going to tell it real quick. So I'm out with Canon Explorer Light, won't name names, and he's a close friend of mine, and he's not shooting this, and I'm all over it with a 1200 millimeter lens, and there's a lot of atmospheric distortion going on. And Glatzer says to me, he says, you can't get this shot. There's no way to get it sharp. And I'm saying, I think I can get it. It's really impossible. You can see the atmosphere rising off the ice. And what it is it's so cold out. It's -30. The ice is only about 0 degrees, and it's actually bringing up heat waves, which blur the image. But I've been photographing birds of prey in New York a long time, and I used to use the car as a blind because the birds weren't afraid of the car. And I would do a lot of drive-by shootings, I used to call them, because I would pull up to the bird area and the birds wouldn't run because it was just a car. I would open the window, but I would have to shut off the engine and let the engine cool a little bit, because the heat coming off the engine would in fact put a shimmer in the atmosphere and blur the image. And it took me a long time to figure out what was going wrong. And I learned it in Jackson Hole, believe it or not, when I was shooting eagles on the rocks, and the rocks were melted. The snow was melted on the rocks, and it was putting out this heat wave that made the picture blurry. I couldn't see it with my own eyes. And so the same thing was happening here. And what I learned from doing that in New York is the wind. When the wind blows, it subdues that shimmer down to nothing. And I can snap away right there, snap, 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 and get the shot I'm looking for. To me, I'm out there, spent a lot of money to get out there. It's a limited amount of time out there with the bears. So I got to make it work. You got to use your head. You got to think. And that's what I'm doing. I'm using every bit of my knowledge to get the shot. It's a simple shot, but it wasn't because of that atmospheric distortion. All right. So I always look for landscapes. We were talking about that earlier. It was on our list when we spoke about what I chase. Landscapes and the environment, I called it the environment, are essential to making really great photographs. All right, we don't always have to get close. And I used to think like that, folks. I had this 600mm lens with teleconnectors and everything was so sharp when I used it. And you would get these incredible detailed shots and close-ups of animals that were just incredible. People were blown away. However, I felt like I was documenting the wildlife, and I didn't want to do that. I love doing it. Don't get me wrong. That is why I'm out there. It's to document it, to see it, to experience it. It's wonderful. It never gets old, and I love it to death. But I'm an artist, and I wanted to make art out of my images. And so a few different things came into play, and just documenting animals wasn't it. I mean, all of it is in the end a document, but colors and moods and all these elements that I'm putting into my pictures in purpose change the images to art, in my opinion. And it's subjective, so everybody can have their own opinion about it, but that's what I'm trying to do. So here I am on snowmobile in Yellowstone National Park, and I'm seeing this image. It's hundreds of yards away. I got my guide with me, and I have a couple of guests, because I take guests with me to these places. And so they don't see what I see because it's far away, and they're not sure what I'm stopped for and why I stopped, but I'm explaining to them. I'm saying, if we use our big lenses, you're going to see a scene like you've never seen before. The snow's coming down, the steam is rising up, and those bison, they're grazing in it. We just have to wait to the right moment that they're separated so that you can tell they're bison. All right, that's what I said before. You need to see all the extremities. You need to see those horns to know what you're photographing, because they're just a silhouette. If they were all bunched together, you would just see a bunch of feet maybe, and you wouldn't know what I was photographing. And it matters because it's part of the story. All right. So to me, this is a really impactful scene. There's a lot of steam coming off that Yellowstone ground, which is volcanic and hot. You can see all the snow is really melted there. All right. But the snow is coming down hard, and it's a wild scene when you really look at it close up. You can even see the snow in the silhouettes and the darks of the buffalo. So yeah, I'm capturing action all the time, and I'm watching carefully. But like I was talking about before, does it become a document, or is it an artistic rendering of what I'm looking at? And this is the question I'm always holding to myself, and I'm trying to get best. So what goes through my mind? Oh, direction of light, my backdrop, very important to me. Can I get lower so that the animals look bigger and magnanimous, and in this case, higher in a jump? This fox was stuck out on a little pad of ice that floated off the main area, and it had to go from iceberg to iceberg to iceberg to get back to land, and it was a lot of fun to photograph. Really fun and exciting, and every jump was a new jump and a new photograph to get, so it was really great. Let's move on. Okay, so yeah, captivating light. I'm looking for this all the time, and often I'm shooting into the light. Why? Because actually there becomes two sources of light. There becomes the ambient light that's around you, and then the backlight, which is usually the sunlight source. In this case, it's the opposite. So I'm in the woods, and I found this screech owl, and I only found it because of his eyes. Unbelievable eyes caught my attention. Okay, and it was spotlit by the sun, which I thought was really interesting. And if you photograph the highlights, all the shadows fall into place. And it becomes kind of like I said before, a stage lighting. So the world is a stage, and this one's spotlit. All right. And they got this spotlight coming down on this owl, and it's just those eyes captivating. You can even see the sun in one of those eyes there. And that's how it went. And just a fantastic moment. Really, really subdued, really special for me. And that owl's the size of my fist. It's tiny. It's a really, really tiny screech owl, which again, I photographed in Florida many years ago. Let's go again, more dramatic light. Okay, dramatic light. I look for these dark backdrops. Okay, and I had tons of pictures like this, but I have to keep it thin because we're short on time today. But again, I'm looking for these dark backgrounds and then the sun coming across. And then my angle of attack is important, not just for the landscape and not just for the dark background, but for the light. The light needs to skim across the fox and my other subjects. What happens is it's creating shadows in their fur and texture. Texture is important, okay? That's giving you depth in your image. And to me, that makes my images that much better, okay? So it becomes really, really impactful because of the lighting, okay? And it has all this texture to it. And then it has this beautiful drop off, which is really a plow line to the road. So it looks like there's sort of a cliff there. It's a little cliff hanging look. And that's what I'm thinking when I come to this moment. And all of a sudden there's a fox there and I have to, how am I going to handle this best? Okay, and these moments are fleeting. They do not last long, okay? In this case, I had seconds because basically what happened is when I pulled up with my car, I scared the wolf away from its drinking. It was right off the road. An incredible moment. It's not one of my Yellowstone wolves. This is something in Minnesota on my way to a bear shoot. And unbelievable, unbelievable. So I stopped the car. I always have my lens on the seat. If you're traveling, your lens better not be in your pack. Okay, it should be right next to you. You're on a trip. You're going to see things you've never seen before. You need to be ready to go. All right. I was ready to go. And I got this wolf as it was walking away. It's an incredible moment with the reflection in the bottom, the backlighting, and just enough light to light the wolf. Very exciting. Okay. An incredible moment. So you have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. Make sure your eyes are sharp. I don't care if the whole picture is out of focus. If you have sharp eyes, you probably got a good photograph going for yourself, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? So I'm always photographing the eyes. Here's another fleeting moment. All right, so I'm in Alaska and this bear is approaching me and I'm actually nervous because it's a bear with cubs. That means it's protective and dangerous. All right, so I can make no noise and hopefully they'll just pass right by. Now I'm in an area where the bears aren't really interested in people. They eat the fish, they eat the grass. They're not really interested in me, but they got cubs, so it's a defensive thing. But I needed to capture this moment because as this bear walked towards me, I couldn't stop but notice the cubs are doing exactly what the mothers are doing. So when the mother lifts a right foot, the cubs lift the right foot. And it literally is like that. They're learning from their mother, and believe it or not, they're creeping around, tiptoeing around because they're afraid of bigger bears attacking them. Okay, and you can almost see a nervous look on the mother's face. All right, so I'm hiding behind a quad, just an open quad. It's a very dangerous situation. I stay quiet, and as soon as the camera clicks, she's so nervous she runs into the grass, never to be seen again. All right, but at least I get the shot, and it's a really, really awesome moment with the cubs following along. All right, now again, I'm always using the environment, using leading lines. All right, and there's a lot of leading lines in this photograph. I love that the bear is crossing this natural bridge, okay? And when I was in this situation, and this is the same day as the wolf shot, believe it or not. So I'm up now at the bear location and I want this shot. I was at this location a few times and I'm saying, all I want is this bear going across the bridge. And I sat there all day. Nothing else mattered to me because the scene is really awesome. You have all these trees in the background that converge on that river. The river is dark and it goes right into the bear. So you really have no choice but to look at this bear. And again, all the environment lends itself and complements the subject. And that's why I love it so much. Okay. It's the same thing here, kind of. All those trees in the background of the spirit bear, they lead your eye right to the bear. And then you kind of get the environment that it comes out of the woods, goes fishing. And this is really what you see. It spends time on the river fishing. And of course, we get all these documentary pictures of that, like you saw in the beginning. But I'm trying to make art. All right. So there's kind of a yin and yang here with that openness of the river and all the haze out there. And then the forest is a completely different kind of environment. All right. Yeah. So I have to climb the mountains high up to get eye level with these big horned sheep. And they're not low on the mountain. So it's a lot of effort. I'm carrying heavy equipment with me. It's treacherous and dangerous, but it's necessary to get the shot I want. I don't want to be looking up at it all the time. A lot of people, that's how they're photographing it because they won't take the time to hike up there. A, it's dangerous. B, it's unsafe. Let's just say that. And then see. I mean, it's difficult and not everybody can do it. So it took a lot of effort. Getting down is way harder than going up, by the way, with the equipment, way harder. So be careful if you decide to do something like this. It's the snowy weather that's me that adds the mood. Okay, the distant trees that give an idea of how high we are, because the sheep is higher than the tree line. So I try to make it look like that we're high up, and we are. So that's the idea, is to try to use the environment to my advantage. Okay, so the humanistic qualities on these animals are incredible, and I try to capture them. This one, he's really rolling over and changing his position, but he looks like he's on the cell phone. Can you hear me now? I mean, we're in the Arctic. It's an awesome ad. I mean, I wanted to sell it to Coca-Cola, I wanted to sell it to Verizon, and it's been a difficult road. But it's a one-of-a-kind shot, so I'm going to keep working on it. But it's a lot of fun to look at. The relaxed look on the bear, he's so chilling. It's very humanistic, and I love the image. Let me show you some other stuff now that tells stories as well. So here's a moment where you have the eggshell on the bottom, the baby, the parents kissing. It's a romantic moment. Just hatched. Okay, we still have another egg that's not hatched, so it's a really exciting picture to me, and that's the kind of storytelling I like to take. Okay, yeah, we've seen a couple of moon and sun shots, and this is the same idea. So I'm out to the latest hours. The sun is gone and the moon is up, and because the moon is low, I am still out photographing, and because I'm in Yellowstone and I know the area well, I know that I can get beneath certain cliffs, and the animals hang out there, and I just wait until one walks into the scene properly. And believe me, it takes forever. Sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works. Some animals run away because I'm actually walking up the road. My car is parked, looking for the angles with the moon, and it changes with every peak that I try to go to, and it's actually a difficult task. But when it works out, you get a really moody, really fantastic image like this. You can see the whole moon, but you know that it's just a crescent, and it's really fun to look at. So I'm going to take a look at our time, see how we're doing. All right, we're running late. I'm gonna move quick. I'm going to show you some black and whites that still evoke incredible mood. Okay, there's balance them. There's all kinds of my elements in them. I'm going to go fast. This portrait I took right out of a car, and it's right out my window, so I'm a wide angle. I love it because of the storm. I'm taking it with a slow shutter speed so that the snow is streaking across, but the animal is so still that I have fur detail, okay? So it's a really impactful shot. And then you can't see the storm at all. The white side, that negative space that I used, is calm. You can't see the storm, and I kind of love that there's a calm and then all that fiasco that's going on in that eye of the buffalo. Really wild. Natural frames. I look for natural frames all the time, and I think they complement your subject. In this case, when I went to Africa, and I'm sure a lot of people have thought of this, is let me get mother walking in the background and frame the baby with the mother, and it came out amazing. Okay, and I do think that it's an impactful shot. Here we're back in Yellowstone. I passed this twice a day. I must have seen this 500 times in my career, but only one time, twice, I've taken a photograph that really mattered. Okay, it's a petrified forest. It's been burned from underneath, meaning the water is acid from the volcanic activity, and it burned the trees from the roots. There was no fire, and it's very rare to see animals walk through there because there's no food at all. It's no good for them. But in this case, there was a buffalo walking through, and the river kind of slanted and made a leading line to him, and it's just a wild shot with that light coming through, and I really think it evokes a lot of feeling. That one, in fact, is hanging in my gallery, 5 feet big. It's an awesome sight. If everybody has time, go down to Lake Worth Beach, 500 North Dixie, and check out that gallery show. It's really amazing. It'll be up there for the whole season. Ask me questions later about it. We got to move. Again, the environment, all right, the forest in the background and the really eerie feel of it, and the fox kind of out in front of it really, really is impactful to me, okay? Again, environment. When I saw this, I knew exactly what I had to do. It was a skyscape. It's not about the elephant, but it is about the elephant, all right? I want to make this giant elephant look tiny. So I used the widest angle lens I had, okay? I make a skyscape. The rays are amazing, all right? And the elephant's this only focal point because it's the only bump in the road there, right? So you have to look at it, and it forces people to look closely. And then you're like, oh my goodness, there's an elephant there, and it's got tusks, so you know it's not small. And then all of a sudden it appears like, wow, this skyscape is huge, and this animal's in a huge, vast environment, and he looks tiny in the world he is in. It's called Small World. I have this hanging in my house. It's one of my favorite. Moving along, this is an environmental shot. This is my TED Talks. We're always talking about global warming, and in the Arctic, the polar bears, they come to the the shore at the same time of year every year. You can set your watch to it because the ice usually forms that time of year. And it did form. This was just earlier in the week. In the way back, you can actually see the ice way back beyond the waves. And that ice moves. And in 2 days, it came to shore and the bears get on the ice and they travel with the ice. That's where the seals are and that's where the food is. So they're actually waiting in the shore for that ice to come. But I'm photographing it to my advantage with the heat coming off the water and making an impactful image for the polar bear. Right, this is a fun shot. It's kind of like a drone shot. Drone shots are in, but I was standing on the front of the sailboat and this humpback whale is scratching its back on the boat and it just surfaced underneath me. So I'm looking straight down at the nose of a humpback whale, like Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, but with my camera, not just saying I'm king of the world. I'm looking down. But it was really a great feeling because one side of the whale is covered in the water and the other side has amazing detail on the whale itself. So I really love the shot. Again, impact, eye contact is the key. All right, but there's a lot going on here with the background haze. It's in front of a hot spring in Yellowstone, and so all this steam and some of it came in front of the wolf, so it really was fun. And the wolf is moving, so he's kicking the snow. So a really impactful shot. This one is hanging in the gallery. Really cool image from Africa. The hyena coming from an incredible day, and everybody greeting her. So really awesome, where everybody's converging on that one spot. It brings your eyes right to her eye. Moving along. Just keeping with time, so we have time for questions. But we are doing romantic stuff, so it is important to sometimes have some connection in your images. Okay, mother, daughter, and they're holding trunks. Take a close look. There's a lot of things going on with the composition here. You can see this foreground, then there's focus, then there's background, and then there's an even deeper background. So it's got a lot of depth that's in it. Okay, for you guys, I decided to change course and show you that you don't have to travel the world to get the romance in nature. All you have to do is go to Loxahatchee. Now, this was the change I made today, and I hope you guys enjoy it because I've been spending a year now in Loxahatchee, and the place is phenomenal. It's got different wildlife than I have in New York, and it's been in a different palette, different lighting, and a lot of fun. And so here I am out there crawling around the bushes and getting some of the sunrise with the moonset. And let me show you some of the Loxahatchee romance that I'm doing. I have this one going into Audubon magazine. I'm hoping that it gets chosen. I think it's a really impactful shot. These sandhill cranes landed right next to me and started croaking their chirp or whatever you want. If they started singing their song, it goes right through you. It's so loud. And I had no idea that they would land right next to me like that with the moon in the background. So it was a really romantic moment with that sunrise coming up. Super awesome time of day. You can hear the insects and the crickets and then these calling birds right over my head. I mean, they were right on top of me. This is a wide angle lens. Yeah, that time of day. I'm always out in that early morning to get that alpine glow. All right. Yes, and the animals are out in the morning more than the afternoon here. I've noticed they get their routine done early. Why? Probably the Florida heat. All right, so they're out early to avoid the heat, and then they're going to sleep most part of that day. And if they didn't get the food and nourishment they wanted in the morning, they'll come back out in the afternoon. But it's a little bit more of a crapshoot, I think, in the afternoon. So far from my experience, folks. But I love the berms. I can walk along the berms and see the animals from a distance, and sometimes they can't see me, and you can hide using the bushes. And this is one of the local red-shouldered hawk youngsters that allowed me to crawl up right to him while he was looking for insects in the ground. And these youngsters are new at this, so they know to run away from me, and I can take advantage of those times. Okay, and yes, there are great gators in the back waters there, which is great. You can go up to the back docks and see alligators just at Loxahatchee, and there's different places to go. You have the decks over by the Welcome Center. You have these otters that are going over the berms once in a while, which are really fun to look at. If you look closely, he's looking at this little insect in the air in front of him, just past his body. Just cute. Yeah, great light. And the light's early there. Like I said, when the sun rises up, you're getting amazing light right away because there's not a lot of tall trees and it's a vast area. Very expanded area, which is a good thing because you can get lost there and really go find the animals deep in the berm areas and in the back by the trees. So a lot going on there, a lot of cool critters that captivate me because I'm from Long Island. I don't see these basilisks and these snail kites. Unbelievable chance to see a snail kite out there. It's really that red eye. Unbelievable. You know the water is in pristine shape if these birds are hanging around. Okay, so I'm shooting across a berm now, and I just love the lines on this with the sandhill crane. And it's great to see these birds out here. It's just truly a gift because we never had them back where I was at home. And then again, by the Welcome Center, the Spanish moss woods that you have there, these trees are fantastic. And there are owls in there, and it's subdued and the light gets in. So you have to really wait for your moments. But when the light hits the owl and everything kind of falls dark around it, it's really, really a fantastic moment in there. An oasis of itself. And that's a special thing about Loxahatchee. This was also in the Loxahatchee off the deck. And this bird was making the nest. They had the babies. The babies fledged. I was there for the day they walked out of the nest, and I was there for the day they laid the eggs. It was really great. I mean, I'm able to make stories again right here in Florida. It's fantastic. And so, yeah, I'm down. The berms are great because I can get low, all right? And the birds walk by me and I can shoot the skies. And I love that. I love that. That's kind of like New York. There's a lot of mountains and hills in New York where I can shoot angles and get skies the way I like to get them. And so I'm doing that here at Loxahatchee, using the low part of the berms near the water and shooting up at the birds, these sandhills that are walking along the berm. And they ignore me. It's just fantastic. So you get this great sunset in the background with the rays, just like I was doing with the other stuff, folks. And yeah, there are owls there. There are not only the barred owls that I just showed you, but there are great horned owls out on the marsh trail. And this was a great day because the sun was setting and it was getting too dark and too buggy to shoot. And then as I was walking away, the angle changed. And then I saw the moon setting after the sun. And I had to take everything back out and start photographing again. Know that when you go to Loxahatchee, you got to wear some protective clothing for the insects, for mosquitoes. I wear a raincoat, I wear a hood, and I wear gloves so that they don't sting me as often. And I can spend more time out there and enjoy my time out there. All right. So yeah, when the days ends, I go to the back berm, to the parking lot in the back, and I get these awesome sunsets. And you can see the alligator in the water there, and the shadows the clouds are casting from the sunset. And it's really a wonderful place. And I enjoy it. And there's a lot of things you can do that. I'm getting people up there, these fires that they have in the sugarcane areas in the back that create these incredible cloudscapes. And I'm all for it. So the place is romantic in itself. All right. I do shoot storms back there. It was a great storm season. I started shooting some lightning bolts over the marsh, which was a lot of fun. And changing my backgrounds. And this was a puddle. All I did was put my camera really low to get the puddle to try to make it interesting and different than the last shot. You see, I got a little spark in the center on that one. And this one was practically nighttime. And I love how you can see the late dusk and with the night and the lightning. And so it was a really impactful shot. Okay, I'll end with that because I think we're running late now and I promised to keep it short. I wanted everybody to know that I am sponsored by F-Stop, and I told them that I was speaking for you guys, and they gave me a discount code. That discount code is for all of you. If you're interested in these bags or any of their products, which I find are superior to many, this will get you 15% off. This is their new Dura Diamond bag. That's what I use. My 600 millimeter is in there with a camera on it. All right. Fits comes out of the top. You can also access it from the back. It's got lots of pockets, very durable, and keeps out the weather, which is the most important thing. I am also sponsored by there's my bag again, my older bag, still a great bag. I sold it to a friend of mine who's using it now and loves it. But now I'm also sponsored by Zanelli. This is an Italian gimbal company, but it's the lightest gimbals made on the market. I do like this gimbal a lot. I had the older one. They sent me this new one to shoot and work with, and it's fantastic. It has that lever that comes off in the back so you can shoot video smooth. And it's the lightest gimbal on the market, which is important for traveling for me. And it does, those codes are for discounts, just so you know, so you can get those codes if you want them. And that's really the gist of it. You heard that I have a book at the store there. So if you want to get the book, go to the Loxahatchee store. If you need me to sign it, you can contact me through Josh or through my websites, which I'm going to leave next. This is my Olympus setup on that gimbal head. So it fits that small camera. It also fits my big dog, my Canon with the big 600, no problem. All right, no problem at all. All right, this is where you can contact me if you need a signature in your book, if you need a private class, if you want to meet me for a day of photography, anything you like, this is where you're going to get me. Follow me on that Instagram. I have 23,000 followers, and we want it to go up because it's important in my career. And so if you have the time and you have the effort in you, go ahead and follow that. I post a lot, and you'll see a lot of new stuff up. I want to thank everybody for staying, listening, and taking it all in. Josh for setting this up. Josh, well, I mean, he did so much for me. He was on the emails, he was setting this up and the timing and then all the blasts to get people to come. Thank you kindly for that. You were exponential in getting this together. So I really appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Everybody, thank you again. We'll take some questions. I'll stop talking now.
Well, thank you, Scott. Really amazing work. The thing that strikes, by the way, please do enter any questions into the chat. The thing that strikes me about your work is it's very real, but it's simultaneously surreal, which I think takes tremendous talent.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a success story right there. And thank you for saying, yeah, it's a compliment. We want it to be larger than life, in a way, almost unbelievable, because you have to experience it for yourself to really believe what I'm seeing. Some of this stuff is unbelievable. Being this close to the elephants, smelling their breath, on a boat going through the whale breath, you can smell the fish. It's impactful when you have the senses working for you. It's even more, and like you said, unbelievable. It's unbelievable that you're doing it. And so capturing it is hard. Getting the essence of it is hard. And I don't want to just document it. I want you to feel and get that mood and try to evoke some of the feelings I got from being there by engaging my senses. So it's really hard to do that through imaging.
Okay, I'll take you through some of the comments here. Mark says, yay, Long Island.
I bet more New Yorkers here than Floridians so far.
Janet says, lovely photos, thank you. Thank you, love the photos from Susan. Thank you for sharing your work and tips from Paula. Great presentation, thanks. From Alice, another awesome lecture. You're quite the teacher, from Tina. And Mark, again, thank you for sharing your gifts.
Mark, thank you.
If there's nothing else, I just have, first of all, thank you so much, Scott. This was fantastic. If there's nothing else, I just want to let you know that our next speaker series guest will be scientist and naturalist Mark Ian Cook, who will speak on location at the refuge during Everglades Days in February. Mark was with us last year on the subject of a phenomenal wading bird season. Some of you may have been there. Everyone loved his presentation. So he'll be joining us again in February, and we'll be sending informational emails out about all the Everglades Days events, including Mark's presentation to membership. And we are so appreciative of all of you attending tonight. We're grateful for your support, and we'll see you at the refuge. Good night. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.